Welcome all of you for seems to be the first of our speakers from outside. Hopefully you have more. This is Ratnakar Tripathi from the AIMS
Asian Development Research.
Asian Development Research Institution in Patna. Please ignore answer. Ratnakar has been one of the foremost scholars of North Indian cinema in general, but Bhojpuri cinema in particular. His work is the most makes us pride in that.
Am I sounding clear? Is it working at all, I wonder?
This is done?
It's on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably hold it.
Yeah. So I was very excited, as I always am, when I get a chance to be in a classroom or a lecture hall, because I'm slowly turning into a pure researcher with very little interaction except with people in the field. So I jumped at the offer, and thanks to Madhav and Satish, today has been possible. So get down to work now. I will be talking not only about cinema, although the major focus would be on Bhojpuri cinema, but also on music and some other kind of field work which I have done, which will probably help you correlate various aspects of cultural production, authorship, audience, and many other themes. So I will go in the slightly autobiographical mode to tell you the story of what I have been doing in the last 10 years, not because the autobiography itself is inherently interesting, but because there is a sense of movement there and my part of the country. And this appeal is, of course, directed at both North Indians and South Indians. In fact, I'm very keen that some of the people from the South take up studies on Bihar and UP and various other parts. Something like a theatre form like Nautanki, or in Maharashtra you call it Tamasha. I don't know what you call it in these parts, but there are different words for it. I chose a specific person called Mahendra Mishra, who wrote a lot of songs and sang them and moved around in the Bihar, UP, Calcutta, Varanasi region and became a huge star. And the purpose was specifically to see, if there was a sense of uniqueness. It was, to put it bluntly, looking for the real Bihari Nautanki. And I visited the places that he had been to. I tried to reconstruct his life story. I looked at his songs. In the process, I found out that Mahendra Mishra, you may remember the name or you may forget it, that's not important. The superstar was not the only star during the period roughly of 1920s to 1950s, which is when the folk tradition in Bihar and UP was very, very vibrant still. And in retrospect, you could say dying days, but in 50s and 60s, the fact that those are dying days was not very apparent at all. Yeah. And then I started coming across smaller names who were stars, and I'm deliberately using the word stars. As students of cultural studies, you're probably accustomed to using the word only in the very, very modern context, in the context of Shah Rukh and various other. But they were stars, in the sense, the moment people heard that there's a performance, people would start coming in from all kinds of areas, and their communication methods also were very interesting. There was another person that some of you may have heard of. He's better known. He's unlike Mahendra Mishra. He was a theatre artist called Bhikhari Thakur. Yeah. He owned a Nautanki company. theatre company. And the way I have an eyewitness report. He died in 71, I think. So that was as if, the passing of an era. The way he broadcast news about, when he's going to perform. This person who was traveling in a train along with Bhikhari Thakur saw the train stop at various small stations along the way. And Bhikhari Thakur would call the peanut sellers, boys. They would immediately recognize him and run and then, crowd around the boggy. And he would tell them that, please inform such and such person that I'm coming there on, let's say, 7th of August or some such thing. And for sure, the whole countryside would know that there's a performance. Yeah. So they didn't have our internet facilities, but they were managed something fairly efficient, nearly as efficient as the internet for their given limited purpose. So what happened is, through my work, I spent a year and a half intermittently looking at this, the career of these two people. Mahendra Mishra, the songwriter and singer, and Bhikhari Thakur. Now, there are two specific things I'd like to focus on and then move on to the next story, which will be about cinema and then come to music. The first thing was that, despite being Biharis, these people, we always use this word roots. So I was in search of my Bihari roots and I thought I'd go deeper and deeper. It so turned out that instead of going deeper, I was going round and round and I was moving at a very, very horizontal plane. Because that is what these two characters were doing. They left their village rather early in life. They went to Calcutta, they went to Banaras, they traveled all over the place. Our famous Bihari playwright Bhikhari Thakur, in fact, spent a lot of time in Puri, in Jagannath Puri, and absorbed a lot of the Jatra tradition. Yeah. And there was, before Nautanki, there was this tradition called, many variants. Devanagari for those who there's a swear word in Bhojpuri called labra, which basically means liar, cheat, badmash, and so on and so forth. Labar is the tradition of the, almost the, what do you call them? People who just perform impromptu, just make you laugh, crack a few body jokes, make some kind of a social comment and just keep, and there's a lot of bawdiness, vulgarity, and so on and so forth involved in Labar. Basically, a very, very crude tradition. After his exposure to various traditions, sub-traditions all over Bengal and Orissa, and having absorbed a lot of Jatra, this man came and refined the Labar into a Nautanki. Which, where you now have actually written versions of the plays. The fact being that Nautanki, of course, is related to the word Nata, Natya Shastra. So, but these were live performances, and typically, the main body of the play would. Supposing Bhikhari Thakur goes to a village, he'll hang around there for a day or two, pick up local rumors and make references to whatever was happening currently. That's how the play would start. Now, we don't have those portions in print. We only have the main chunk of a plays, and if you go through them, you'll find them rather boring. The reason being that apart from what preceded the play and what followed, in between there were these breaks, where the character has to go and change costume and so on and so forth. When someone would start singing songs or start cracking jokes, all connecting with the local audience and the events of the day. which is one explanation for why we have so many songs in Hindi movies. Yeah, that there is a very trivial explanation for it, namely that it's the time to change costume, and this whole thing is lifted from theatre. Okay, so this whole idea of, I want to place it in front of you as students of cultural studies or cinema, the idea of refinement. What does it mean to refine? Yeah, is refinement something that drops from the sky, or you get a very crude kind of material like Labar, which is basically the village joker. Yeah, he just he insists on making you laugh with, let's say, mostly bad jokes. But if he's good enough, then possibly some humor with irony and some kind of a enduring content. Yeah. Now again, I'll come back to the theme of refinement. That is Mahendra Misra, my main protagonist during the early phase of my work on Bihar. He again grew out of the folk tradition. Basically, singing bhajans and writing songs for the tawaifs, prostitutes, mingling with them. I mean, practically, he lived his not his entire life, at least his early life, moving around among tawaifs. And he was regarded as a hero by the Tawaif community, which was a network, let's say between Calcutta and Bihar and Banaras. Some of you may have heard from your fathers and grandfathers, if they deign to open up such topics, about the string of small towns. Like there was one particular town in Bihar, which in my memory has been famous for nothing else but its red light district. Yeah, now it's red light district, but at one point a kind of a conglomeration of tawaifs. Yeah, who sang. There were singing, dancing women. Now, of course, the whole thing has changed. A town called Bhabua. Yeah. And during my student days, someone told me that Bhabua's claim to fame is nothing but this. It's a kind of a transit between, the big Calcutta market and the smaller towns in Bihar and UP. Similarly, Banaras, the famous Dal Mandi, Sonagachi in Calcutta. So this was a kind of a network, And these networks, even in the traditional context, had the efficiency of your Facebook and Twitter. Because, the news would travel so fast, just within the network. Yeah. So, and these are, peripheral communities, like the communities of these were boys, who dress as girls and sing. Yeah. Launda literally means nothing but boys. Yeah. But it has some, sort of very, very strange, ambiguous kind of meaning as well. Boy, girls, girl, boys, and so on and so forth. I once saw a gathering of Laundas suddenly in Chhapra, in Bihar. And just the day before, someone gave me a long lecture on how these boys have become extinct in Bihar. And we were driving in this car, and then we suddenly saw a whole mela of these people that someone had died. And they had all gathered in one place, in hundreds, not in dozens. Which is and this person was supposed to be a local contact from Chhapra. He's telling me that this tradition is dead. So that's another thing you could follow up. When someone tells you that something is missing, it's dead, it's over, very often you should go and perhaps check. Okay, so to come back again to the idea of refinement in music in Bihar, this is again something that's been researched to some extent from another angle. This famous dancer Shobhana Narayan worked on the gharanas, the music gharanas of Bihar, and a major conclusion was that the gharanas did not form properly. They remained somewhat inchoate because people didn't stay long enough in one place. So what a trivial, banal reason for gharanas not being there. Now, the fact is that a lot of gharanas are now asserting themselves in Bihar. And believe it or not, a little town, Betia, which was a princely state, claims to having two gharanas of Dhrupad, just Dhrupad. But Shobna Narayan is somewhat correct in her claim, perhaps, that these gharanas didn't sort of congeal like the gharanas that you have. So that gives a student a great opportunity to look at a test tube, as if a gharana is in a test tube, where they were in the process of formation, but something went wrong. Not with the music, not with the singers, but with the prince, with the patron, with the so-called, to put it trivially, socio-economic conditions, and the whole thing scattered. People had to go elsewhere in search of livelihood. Now, Mahendra Misra, having risen from this, I've done something. He again tried to, he almost developed a kind of a semi-classical sub-form of Banaras Gharana. It's kind of approaching the classical, approaching, but never quite reaching. Okay, so you have this folk music getting refined, reaching the levels of what you may call light classical music, but not quite, but clambering over the thresholds. Because my work involved so many aspects, I'm being very selective. So, and also time may be limited. So, there's a reason I'm talking about this theme of vulgarity and refinement, because we are going to come down to that directly when we start talking about Bhojpuri cinema today and the Bhojpuri CD music CD industry today. So, any questions about this part will give me a better sense of flow, actually, if you have any queries. Okay, so should I continue? Yeah. So the rest of the story could be told from many angles. You can talk about the history of technology and discuss it. You could talk of the language dynamics in Bihar and UP and the Hindi heartland. You could talk of migration specifically from Bihar and eastern UP. And of course you could confine yourself to the literary or the art forms and tell the story. I will try and give you a Gadbad sort of kitchen version and pick on these themes from a little bit haphazardly. I apologize for that. Yeah. But I think it would give you possibly a better picture of the entire thing, after which you can decide where you want to focus. So the next thing is we come to caste system or class system in the realm of aesthetics, namely the vulgar and the refined and the crass. So now the thing about Bhojpuri cinema is that how many of you are from Bihar, UP, over here? Not that I'm missing them, because I live in Patna. So in which case I need to emphasize the point a little bit that how many of you are from Telugu speaking? And how many of you see Telugu films? Okay, that gives me an idea of who you are. So, because we have Hindi-speaking people who don't see Hindi films, or so was the case till some time ago. Now, the Bhojpuri-speaking middle class doesn't see Bhojpuri films, plain and simple. Yeah. So, In the year 2005 and 6, when I first saw how well Bhojpuri cinema has been doing, I got very curious, and I thought, I have this research problem that I need to open its mouth wide and look into it, and check on its entrails and just move throughout its viscera and look at my own society. Now, the history of Bhojpuri cinema, in case you're not familiar, very quickly, in 1962, the first Bhojpuri film was made, sort of instigated by our first president, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who had a very, very homely, folkish side to him. And some second, third rate, this is not out of condemnation. I mean, the Saidi professionals from Bombay. Yeah, by second, third rate, I don't mean the quality, but the professional hierarchy. They got busy and they started making films, which the first film was Ganga Maiya Tohe Peri Chadaibo, and then Lage Nahi Chote Rama, and a whole series of them. Yeah. Now, this is what was actually a middle-class Bhojpuri cinema. Okay, and it never really took off. It sort of has, if one looks at the whole career of Bhojpuri film since the 60s till now, there's so many ups and downs, till matters get stabilized towards the end of 90s. And even today, I can't say with full confidence that Bhojpuri cinema is immortal like Hindi cinema. Because, I have this lurking fear. Something unnameable may go wrong. So this is one of the striking things that happens, and there is no great explanation for it. I don't have one, because I haven't looked closely enough at this up and down business. And this is something that I think even in the case of other regional cinemas is an interesting research problem to take up. Because from what I hear, Bangla cinema was doing terribly till recently, so much so that I remember in 2007 or 8, there was this big Bangla movie star hanging around with Manoj Tiwari and various other Bhojpuri stars trying to steal or borrow some of their shine in Patna, which is not the case. Bangla cinema has currently taken off like a rocket. And, I met Jadapur guy, Moinak in just this March in Delhi, and he was talking about it. So, and he was very much busy. He was in the middle of action. He was trying to explain this entire thing. I haven't met him since. So, and this has happened to other industries also. But I know more about Bangla because it's right there next door. So that's one thing. Now, what happens is slowly, it's not just a question of Bhojpuri films doing better, but somewhere between the somehow 60s, 1960s, 70s, 80s, you have the middle class kind of Bhojpuri cinema somehow staggering along, with the at times, 2 films, 3 films getting made in a year, or, one major hit, one minor hit, at times, a completely blank year. Yeah. And then suddenly in late 90s, you could say 2000. Because in 2003, you have this phenomenon called, this is something you'll hear from guys from Bihar. Film called Sasura Bada Paise Wala. Can someone translate it?
Rich guy.
Father-in-law is a rich guy. Except that father-in-law seems a very, very, hygienized word. Sasura is also a swear word. Yeah, nothing very filthy, but it's a bit like Sala, Sasura and all that. So look at the title of... so are you now surprised that the Bihari middle class has nothing to do with Bhojpuri cinema? If this is the title of the film, there's something offensive, there is something vulgar as if. And in fact, I'm also quite split-headed, being a part of quarrel. My quarrel lies elsewhere. My quarrel is, in a sense, with myself, but with the complete divorce between Bhojpuri cinema, which is a phenomenon now. Today I checked the latest figures. It seems the annual turnover is coming to something like 2,000 crores. It seems a little bit incredible to me, but media figures and entertainment figures are always enormously flexible. But it's huge. 50 to 60 films are being made still. Yeah. And the Bihari middle class has nothing to do with it. Does it give you any message about a certain kind of society? It's basically the Gulf. Yeah. Now, if you remember, I spoke about Bhikhari Thakur and how he took up something very crude form like Labar. Where you'd have one or two performers putting up an act, and he refined it into the Nautanki form, and he refined it to the extent that you wouldn't believe this. A village Nautanki guy making the landlords, the patrons, sign on written contracts that the dancing boys will not be mistreated. And mistreated is a euphemism. I hope you can understand what. A written contract. So financially and otherwise, he made his company secure. He took good care of his, but in our language, staff, namely the boys who danced with women. And this is the height of modernity. And the attempt to refine, both in the cases of Mahendra Misir and Bhikhari Thakur, the playwright, and look at what's happening now. The enormous gulf, when the middle class is looking away from Bhojpuri cinema, not even willing to study it. So many people in Bihar ask me, why have you taken up this thing? Because studying Bhojpuri cinema itself means worshipping it and admiring it and so on and so forth. Which I do, in a sense, but it's not as if, it's not as an exemplar, but it's as something that gives you a glimpse into the character of the region, which includes things like language, migration, and what is happening to Hindi language, for example, in the heartland area. Yeah. So, strangely enough, when I talk about Bhojpuri cinema, I'm not even talking so much about cinema per se, as about the kind of divide it creates. Now, what kind of divide is it? Is it just between the vulgar and the refined? No. It's between the upper castes and the lower castes. It's the upper classes, the lower classes. And these are not something you can conflate them, you can put them together. That upper class means refined and lower. No. I know a lot of Brahmins who are great devotees of Bhojpuri cinema, but these are the vernacular Brahmins who can barely speak some Hindi, English, apart. Yeah. So you have these various stratifications that you need to keep in mind in a parallel way, instead of conflating things together and trying to create one single hierarchy. The language hierarchy, the aesthetic hierarchy, the caste hierarchy as apart also from the class hierarchy. And it might seem very complicated to you, but it simplifies things for me. Yeah, in the sense, you know what is the class moment, what is the caste moment, what is the language moment, what is the aesthetic moment, as you do your analysis and try to make sense of things. Okay, so what is happening in Bhojpuri cinema is that Ganga Maiya Tohe Piyari Chadhegu. I'll again just focus on the title. Look at the piety and the softness, the gentleness, that would seem to go with a certain kind of a middle class drawing room kind of ethos. And look at a shrill title like Sasura Bada Paise Wala, where character, the son-in-law turns out to be a rickshawala who's very honest and so on and so forth, and he proves his mettle through some kind of a struggle, which is Manoj Tiwari film. So what is happening is the Bhojpuri cinema is changing hands. It's leaving the the drawing room, the living rooms of a middle class barely ready, because Bihari middle class was never really well formed. Yeah. And before it got well formed, it had to reform itself. And now through various upheavals, it's coming together again. So again, Bihari middle class, there are certain signs of it. For example, you must have heard of the craze Bihari middle class has for IAS. There are certain traits which will make you identify them. But then there are lots of hiatuses also within castes, within languages and regions. So it's not something solid like the Maharashtrian middle class, or even your sort of Hyderabad-based middle class or Telugu middle class. For example, I know a trait because of my current research, the dream to go to US, for example. That's clearly one of the, a thing which makes me identify. Because even Maharashtrians go to US, but it's not part of the family dream. So, there is this one major sign of cousins competing with cousins, that, the elder one is in US or Canada and I should also go there. So, Bhojpuri cinema and changes hands, it falls into the lap of the rising Lalus, Nitish, if you like, the middle castes. Yeah. And that is what is happening. But this is the middle class very broadly. This is the vernacular class. Okay? And vernacular class means, those people who are comfortable with Bhojpuri, with Maithili, with Maghi. There are many dialects in Bihar, but Bhojpuri is what you hear most of the time. I will come to that at some point. So this is broadly the story of Bhojpuri cinema, which I think is somewhat unique in the sense, this whole transfer of power, as if that takes place in the realm of cinema. Finally the middle classes give up, they disown Bhojpuri cinema the same way they are slowly disowning, they're putting up a fight. The ministry in Patna. Okay, so this is to do with the story of the upper castes and the middle class, the struggle. And so this is one thing. The other thing is, and this is where I'm very excited that, I'm amidst people who are mostly from the south, because this is one thing, the dialects in the north, generally, that's my hypothesis, are going through a major kind of a shake-up. And this applies not simply to Bhojpuri. Bhojpuri has become a major story because, it has something like up to 15 to 20 crores. And I'll tell you why I'm putting such a large number over here. What's happened is Bhojpuri is actually a bunch of languages. You have districts in Bihar where Bhojpuri is spoken. Then you have certain districts in eastern UP where Bhojpuri is spoken. There you have contested areas. For example, Chhattisgarhi sounds very much like Bhojpuri. And a Bhojpuri imperialist would want to include it. I know at least one grammarian who claimed that Chhattisgarhi is part of Bhojpuri. Then languages from Jharkhand like Goram are part of Bhojpuri, and so on and so forth. That grammarian happened to be my father, by the way. But he was a Sanskritist, so he was very, very imperialist. Now, I got along with him otherwise. So this is the reason that you'll find it's a very, very major language group, and it's not really a dialect. I'm using the word dialect very loosely when I call Bhojpuri a dialect, because Bhojpuri existed before Hindi. Like your Dakhini in Hyderabad is the mother of Hindi. It's not a dialect of Hindi, although very loosely and unprofessionally we may call it like, but Bombaya Hindi could be called a dialect because it came post Hindi. Then there are various other dialects also which came up after independence. So Hindi is still producing its new dialects. I heard that Hindi spoken in the tea garden area in North Assam has a very, very distinctive character. Now, this is where you could, in your mind, make comparisons with your own area, whether Tamil Nadu or Andhra. All the languages which actually gave birth to Hindi, like Haryanvi, Braj Bhasha, Awadhi, some of which had tremendous. Tulsidas wrote in Awadhi. Now, it's foolish to say that Awadhi is a dialect of Hindi. It should be the other way around. And these languages are now again asserting themselves. But how are they asserting? They are asserting through music, through video programs. And this is a very, very vibrant thing. It has not been studied. I'm trying to just now move beyond my Bhojpuri land and try and look at Haryana and Western UP. Because there's a lot of activity in those languages. I wonder if something similar is going on in the south. I heard that there is some kind of murmur around Tulu language, but I'm not sure. And the reason we don't hear about it is because it's not a very quarrelsome activity. Bhojpuri is slowly asserting itself and moving ahead. So is Haryanvi, so are the Kumaon and Garhwal languages. They are flourishing. There is no overt quarrel with Hindi. If that quarrel is happening, that's probably happening in very, very subtle, half-visible kind of theatres, which is why field work is very, very important, to go and see where exactly those conflicts happen. So, for example, when I go to my own village, people in my village talk to me in Bhojpuri, they're very happy, there's no problem. But if I go to a cigarette shop in the nearby town called Motihari, which is in Champaran district, I ask a cigarette wala, give me, I'm revealing information about myself unintentionally. I'm a smoker, yes. So if I ask him for a cigarette, it reply in Hindi. That you think that I belong to this small town, so I can't speak Hindi. No, I can. And this will go on. Finally, I gave up. I sort of got into it. So these are the various levels and registers where things are happening. I wonder if something similar may be happening in the south. And I'm very keen, as I said again, because we North Indians, and it's not just North actually, East Indians, we have too many of our petty quarrels. Believe it or not, Bhojpuri and Maithili at each other's throat. Yeah. Then Magahi, Vajika, they're all so sort of chauvinistic. It will remind you of Telangana actually. But except that, it's not a question so much of land and territory as the linguistic spaces. Because some of these languages are very, very defined, they are classical literature, but you also have Bhojpuri, which has no great history of literature, but it has the numbers, it has the muscle. Yeah. And this is why Bhojpuri is important. Apart from, so I'm looking at Bhojpuri not because it's my mother tongue or some such thing, but because you're dealing with numbers which allow you to make films. Now, supposing in Haryana you decide to make a film in Haryana, your film has to be a super, super hit if you want your money back. Not so in the case of Bhojpuri. Because I ran into a Telugu film producer in Bombay during my field work who had a very interesting office. He had these posters for Hindi films, sort of not the small budget Hindi films that take around 5 crores budget on one side and posters for Bhojpuri films on the other side. This gentleman had nothing to do with Bhojpuri, but he makes these Telugu films which are dubbed in Bhojpuri, but he also makes independent Bhojpuri films. I asked him why. He said that, less risk, quick returns. And less risk means what? Bhojpuri films are now made within 1 crore or something. So you see, what is happening here is the demographics I talked about, the language part I talked about, the caste situation. The language aspect now is full of tension because the rise of all these dialects in the Hindi heartland is going to have a lot of impact on mainstream Hindi. Now, that is a story that belongs to the future. I am unable to sort of tell that story, and just now anyway, I think I better cover some other areas. Yeah. So there is only one part which is missing, but I can bring it up during the segment on music. So after my work on Bhojpuri cinema, and along with it, I started working on the music CD industry in Bihar and again in eastern UP. Now there again, it's such a vibrant industry. I was able to, wherever I traveled, I was able to meet a number of very, very young professionals, ranging between the ages of 9, yes, child stars who sing, and even 6 years old. The youngest one was 6 years old actually. He was brought by his parents, and he had just lately become a rage. This was towards the end of 2010. And child stars are doing very well because of this a certain kind of explanation for this the boy dancers, singers tradition, Londa tradition, and a certain liking for it's not the right word, but these the kind of the quality of voice which is, what is the term for it, mother? These castrato.
Castrato.
Yeah, now it's no longer practiced, but it's in our movies it's the females who sing for boys, no? Yeah, but the child's voice before it breaks, huh? Someone said something? That's right. Okay. So maybe that is the reason. There have been a series of child singers who have made it good, and by that I mean earning lakhs. And I met hundreds, a few hundred, let's say, not to exaggerate, who make a living out of music, singing, playing instruments, then. They also make videos out of their shows. So also actors, dancers, a whole bunch of professionals. But to focus on the singers, there are quite a few singers happily making a livelihood. Yeah. And what I found was that even though the CD industry is doing very well, the musicians, the singers, they all make more money out of live concerts. Here again, there may be a point of comparison. You can look at what's going on in the South. Because globally, I think professionals are making a lot more money out of their live shows. And in fact, recently, a famous star from Hollywood also talked about, how he can earn crores from wedding performance instead of, sort of hanging out somewhere in heat and snow for months to make a crore out of a movie or whatever. I think it was Shah Rukh or some such person who's talking about it. So this is it's a global thing, but it will have certain variations. But thing is, all over the place you have these live shows of various kinds. By live shows, I mean religious shows plus other kind of shows as well. And here again, the middle class refuses to have anything to do with it except perhaps covertly. Because some of the, a lot of the songs in Bhojpuri are downright obscene, some of them unbearably so. So much so, I may not want to write down the lyrics in this, somewhat formal gathering. And the middle class feels very unhappy with that. All kinds of innuendos, double meanings, and so on and so forth. And it's rampant. And these are sort of, at times, caller tunes. They are on mobiles, and they're also played in public, of course, all over the place, and it causes major pain. So, off and on, you have these campaigns against Bhojpuri music, vulgarity of Bhojpuri music, and vulgarity of the Bhojpuri songs. Here I would like to again break this flow somewhat and tell you a story about Bhojpuri singing star, and her take on what is going on in the Bhojpuri music industry. And by Bhojpuri again mean the various dialects of Bihar and Eastern UP. There is this lady called Kalpana Patwari. Okay, she's an Assamese. She landed up in Bombay, and poor thing, she was desperate to make a career, so she got surrounded by these Bhojpuri music CD producers, and she sang these absolutely lewd and obscene songs for many, many years, till she began to understand a little bit of Bhojpuri and realized what she's been singing all along. In fact, a friend of mine recently made a documentary on the Bombay connection. There's a filmmaker called, how do I forget her name? Surabhi Sharma, who's made a film on the Videsia music scene in Bombay. It's just being shown all over the place. So the Kalpana Patwari then became a major star. And when I was doing my field work, I was sitting with this songwriter in a small town called Ara. In front of me, he got a call from this singing star in Bombay, Kalpana Patwari, asking him to write decent songs for him. Yeah, because, I was talking to this poet who was complaining and so on and so forth. Right in the middle of our conversation, Kalpana called. So there again, I'm coming back to the idea of refinement. Yeah, in the sense, you have two options. You can just turn yourself deaf to the music around you. You can, sort of exclude yourself to the music, to the movie, or like Bhikhari Thakur or Mahendra Mishra, you can try and use that as a threshold and refine it. I'm not saying this as a recommendation that that would work necessarily. I'm just presenting to you the cultural options that one has in front of us. And slowly, during my field work, I also found that all the singers are starved for good lyrics. Now, this was very, very counterintuitive. I thought, that, these singers are very, very happy singing all these foul numbers, dwelling on human anatomy endlessly. Like, this singer told me that there are these fixed words that, Bhojpuri songs have to include, words like kiss and this and that and so on. And, you can imagine the rest of the list. But when I spoke to the singers, they said, there is no Gulzar. Gulzar has decided he'll have nothing to do with Bhojpuri cinema, he'll have nothing to do with Bhojpuri songs. In a sense, symbolically. So here was again a certain kind of a possibility of building up. I'm not saying it's easy to build up those bridges, but it's very easy to propose building up of the bridges. I mean, someone might get up and ask me, why didn't I volunteer, for example? But it's a tough job, but it's a worthwhile job because the demand is very much there. There's Bhojpuri singers are hungry for good lyrics. So now what happens is, I'll just give you a brief glimpse. I'll start winding up now. You have, this is the circle I like to draw. It's my cliche. I've done it more than once. You have this financially and network-wise, you have this small circle of cinema worth maybe 1,000 crores turnover per annum. But you have the music CD industry, which is much bigger. And then you have the live concert. Now the problem is, even for those who love to theorize, I mean, live concert phenomenon is something very, would seem very inviting for you to bite on. Because this is, even theoretically in terms of taxonomies and all that, it becomes a major challenge. For example, what is the difference between, is live, to put it bluntly, is live concert industry an industry at all? Yeah. You could say it is an industry because, you know, live concerts are not like earlier. You have crowds of thousands, a lot of equipment, big screens, a lot of technological inputs, tickets, and then, you know, gifts and so on and so forth. So this is actually the largest culture industry, so to say, in my region at least. And it's probably 10 times the size of the cinema industry. Although you probably want to look at cinema as the core, but in no sense is it the core really. The core is really speaking here. Because what happens in a live concert, supposing I'm promised, and this happened in front of me by the way. We were just moving around in this small town, and suddenly with a singer, and suddenly we went to a chemist shop. So this chemist got hold of the singer. He said, "I've been looking for you. Look, I know today's my son's birthday, and I want you to." This is happening in a very small town. This is not event management consultancy. Okay, and this happened right in front of us. And will you come and sing? Because I've invited a lot of kids. This happened in a town called Buxar. So, leaving us aside, some business negotiation started at the chemist counter. Fee was fixed up, 5,000 rupees. And you know, kids, they can't stay up till late. So if a program starts at 7, it has to end by 9:30 or so. With all the chips and Coca-Cola, whatever, gone down the bellies. 3 hours, 5,000 rupees, small town like Buxar in Bihar. Singer, an instrumentalist, and someone to accompany for 3 people. So you can imagine the economic financial scale of the whole thing. Because, you know, a driver typically in Patna would get a salary of something like 5,000 rupees per month. And here's a group of 3 just making a quick deal, getting 5,000 rupees, you know, just a matter of minutes. So I gave you that example to, you know, also get an idea of the financial scales, why this is. Then I was told about what goes on in live concerts. Okay, my fee may be 5,000 rupees, yes. But what happens is once I start singing, very much in the traditional style, okay, someone from the crowd will throw money. Yeah. And if I'm a girl, the person may want to come and not throw but put it in my hand. Not in the necessarily in the Bombay bar girl kind of scenario, but with a bit more restraint and respect and decorum. Yeah. So, and those earnings at times could be, for example, a singer told me that his fee was 10,000 rupees and he ended up making 1,50,000 for a major event from what he got as, so-called gifts and all that. And the gifts can be very, very serious at times, because they could even be ornaments. Someone just pulls off a gold ring and gives it to you on the spur of the moment. Yeah. And the person who does that may be a rickshawala also, don't forget that, who's in a state of great high, because he is, as much of a patron as the big sort of landlord or wealthy man or whatever. So this is the interesting thing, and it contrasts with the problem of piracy. How in live concerts people just come and empty out their pockets, but they don't want to pay $10, $5 even for downloading or whatever, or getting the original stuff. Okay, so where are we now? Now I will come to a very specific trait of all this: cinema, music, and various other cultural forms in the context of Bihar. And that connects with the issue of development and growth and various other things. Now, typically, Bihari labor sends up to something like 1,000 rupees per month, even if he carries the entire amount home in a ward together, maybe after 4 months or 6 months or whatever. So if you go by the figures, from 80 lakhs to 1 crore, imagine the amount of money, even if you put it as 500 rupees per month, that is going into Bihar per month. So before giving all credit to Nitish Kumar for Bihar's development, just stop for a moment and look at the money that's coming into Bihar every month. Some of it, a lot of it from Hyderabad as well. So if you have known carpenters and plumbers and various other workers from Bihar. So these are the people who sustain Bhojpuri cinema as well as during the late 90s and early 2000. Yeah. And when I was in Bombay, a producer told me that earlier on 40% of the money, 60% of the box office collections used to come from outside Bihar, namely from Bombay, from Hyderabad, from various other towns like Jaipur, Delhi, Noida, and so on and so forth. But now it's turned out the other way. And I don't know the latest figures. I'll do a double check by the end of the year. But the whole thing has reversed. So the migrants send money home, which means there is an ability for certain kind of consumption that goes beyond immediate needs, and some money for entertainment. I'm not proposing that as a causative factor, but as something that goes hand in hand with the growth of the entertainment industry, more as an enabling factor than So there is a lot of that in the case of Bihar, and both in the case of cinema as well as in the case of music, and as you may have guessed, it's also behind the live entertainment industry. And a lot of, absolutely rustic characters I met. I mean, I couldn't believe that they are such well-traveled people, from the looks of them and, the way they spoke. I mean, there's this 19-year-old girl telling me that, she goes to Bombay very often, And she went to Jogeshwari, such and such society. They paid her 40,000 rupees plus her ticket. And things like that. And she'd do a tour, string of towns in UP, Bombay, then Delhi, and so on and so forth. So here was this girl based not even in the local town, the small town, but absolutely in the village, who does this kind of traveling. So as you can see now, these the word globalization, instead of being that's the funny thing about the word globalization, it's a cliche actually. But then there are these moments when it seems so alive with meaning, because in some cases it seems that as a researcher I get to travel far less than these people do, and then just know those niches. This woman didn't know anything about Bombay. I asked her, "Did you go to Chowpatty?" She had no idea what Chowpatty is. And similarly, even others, they just go. There's this housing society, mostly inhabited by Biharis or UPites, sing over there, collect 50,000 rupees, come home. Bombay, I don't know about. So, because of which a lot of this has become invisible, but it's having, I believe, impact on our lives, on the straight away, for example, on what may or will happen to Hindi language in the coming years. For example, you have a film like Dabang, which someone said, it's actually a Bhojpuri film. So it's very strange how Bhojpuri imitates Hindi and Hindi imitates Bhojpuri, how Maithil imitates Hindi, and how Hindi imitates English and English imitates Hindi, and all this give and take, and which I think is a very robust thing, because along with the give and take of money, give and take of ideas and feelings and empathies and so on and so forth. I think I will stop over here because I didn't structure my talk deliberately somewhat, because I thought I'll just let the talk flow into further conversation. Is that fine? Thank you.
Yes, I guess you.
Yeah, please give some inputs from the south. That would be very welcome. I'm being very selfish right now.
Bit about what kind of capital is being invested in Bhojpuri film industry, specifically after 1990s, as you are saying. This is the.
What kind of money is being invested?
I'm talking in terms of capital, about the nature of the investment. Say you're talking about Haryana, that as far I know, the Haryanvi films that took up only, there are several efforts, but it started after the Green Revolution, that agricultural surplus came to produce some kind of films. From 1980s, as far I know. In Bhojpuri cinema, in case of Bhojpuri cinema, what was the case? Actually, I'm a little bit curious. And
can I just quickly answer this and then yeah, is that okay? Yeah. Okay, this is a very tight logic. For the smaller producers in Bombay, like the Telugu person I ran into, with whom I had a long conversation with, and another Rajasthani Marwadi businessman, they have no affection for Bhojpuri trade. So this is not a sentimental thing at all. That kind of sentiment is mostly found among the professionals. Yeah. So the budget is 80 lakhs. This will be slightly dated, so you can provide the inflation or whatever. Low risk. I had a whole variety of conversation with the producer, but it all boiled down to this at the end of it. Which means what? A better success rate for returns than in the case of Hindi films. So if I'm making one Hindi film,
I have these two Bhojpuri projects. This is what they believe. Yeah, I'm not sure it works out all the time or how often it works out, but it must be working out more often. Because the risk taker is the one who knows. Yeah. And every time I'm told that Bhojpuri cinema is on decline, and all I do is, and all you may do is simply go and check a Patna newspaper, Hindi newspaper, and see how many films are showing. Because during a presentation in Patna, someone fought with me. The argument was that they are not doing well, but they keep on making more and more films. The argument itself seems slightly absurd, but I got slightly defensive. So the next thing I did on my way home, I bought a Hindi newspaper. There were 5 Bhojpuri films showing in Patna out of something like 8 or 9 films altogether. So it's clearly low risk. Then the other advantage, this is something we haven't talked about, that unlike many other regional cinemas, you have a star system which is already there. So you have these 3 or 4 characters, and a couple are coming up. So this is how the capital would look at. Yeah, so it's the money for Bhojpuri films is not coming from that area itself. This is one of the reasons why the Bihari middle class complains that our films have been taken over. But as audiences of Hindi cinema, we don't complain that our movies were taken over by the Punjabis or by the Bengalis or by Maharashtrians. That has been the history of Bombay cinema as well, which is now getting somewhat corrected, to use an economic term. Does that answer your question? Okay.
And second, actually it's about, it's out of my personal experience. Actually, I'm from Bengal, so I traveled in that border regions, quite widely, like districts of Birbhum, Purulia, and even bordering districts of Jharkhand, like from Orissa, like Moidhar and Kelutan. So I found something interesting. In Purulia, there is a kind of indigenous culture of indigenous films they produce, and they also put up some hoardings advertising those films. These films are not for public screening, I mean the theatre screening, but only for that circulation. They just produce VCDs and they sell those things and shot in Handycam and all. So I have seen, it is advertised as, some Bhojpuri star is there, from a Bhojpuri star to this film. Okay, so and in Birbhum specifically, they also have a culture of producing that kind of music videos. Okay. And in Birbhum, what I found, they also, this kind of videos actually has a very close resemblance with Bhojpuri style of acting, use of the camera, and even the lyrics. Okay. In Mohibat, I had seen several people, they are from Orissa, they are not migrants, Bhojpuri migrants, they are watching Bhojpuri films. That was a tea shop or something like that, I couldn't exactly remember. And in these 3 regions, even in some border regions in North Bengal, which just beside that Kishanganj and all, there also I have found Bengali people, they are originally from that region. They are mostly habituated with Bhojpuri films than even Bengali films. Okay, these are, do you think nowadays, Bhojpuri cinema is also developed, Bhojpuri industry, not only the cinema, with the music, live concert, these things together, developing a kind of, this kind of regional dynamics that is actually including all these indigenous aspects which were previously suppressed by the dominant regional culture, like in Bengal. The Bengali culture is dominating those cultures like indigenous culture, Purulia or Birbhum or Bankura, these districts. So do you think it is developing right now, I mean, with the help of this modern technologies like after that handicap, it became familiar. They started making films, low budget films, and started circulating. So do you think a change is taking place in this region with the help of several other things?
Certainly, Anil, you have brought to everyone's attention something very startling. I was only aware that there is a kind of a new dialect of Hindi which has taken shape in Malta and Purulia. It's a mixture of Bangla and Hindi and I think Nepali or something. Now, which it seems by itself is fascinating, whether media or not. On its own, it's fascinating, but I mean, what you're talking about is something that needs to be looked at because I came across the work of a person whose name I'm forgetting. This was an article in Caravan about a massive production hub in Yamuna Pushta. This is something I've mentioned in my article, so you can get the reference. This is just on the banks of Jamuna, the slums in Delhi. They alone produce 50 of the kind of films of the kind of sort that you are talking about. Now the point is, there is a certain kind of, this is where when people talk about, Bhojpuri is dying, Maithili is dying, and I mean, in what sense? It's exactly the other way around. 50 films. I mean, that's like, a major record. So similarly, once the language in whatever shape it may be registers a very, very tangible presence, it's not something you can take away. So which also may make you wonder about the continued value of print media, because as middle class people we are heavily biased even today. But then again, this is something I know. Print on the net and digital, so to say. Because I don't know how that future is going to work out. Because there again, you have reasons like, did you know that Jharkhand has 12 state languages? And they are fighting for inclusion of a few more. There are problems like what script to use and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, now a process of translation into Hindi from languages like Santhal and all that also started. So what I'm hoping for is that at the end of it, Hindi will probably enrich itself through this kind of embrace. But each of these cases, I don't want to generalize. I mean, what you're talking about needs to be looked at. Because very radical difference between what is happening in Haryana or Western UP and Bihar. I mean, there is no one migrating on for Western UP. Whereas for Bihar, this is really, Bihar's culture is becoming like a culture of migrants. So to say. The stories, 90%, actually more, 95% of this is something I didn't mention, of stories in Bhojpuri films are about the transition between village and city, defending the village at times against the city, two places to live in, which one is better, which one has more possibilities. It's a battle. It's the Bhojpuri epic. I don't think this kind of battle is being fought elsewhere with such intensity, because and Lalu is a symbol of that. I mean, if you, apart from the jokes and so on and so forth, if you decide to take Lalu seriously, this is what he represents, taking urbanism head on. And as a person from Bengal, we may be more sensitive. Because for Bihar, Bengali means the urban guy, even if you come from a Bengal village.
How about television? Is there
No,
channel?
just-
I want to know what's the relationship with television. Is there a relationship with cinema and music and music, or is it certain kind of content that is especially
On TV channel.
TV
Yeah.
channel? What channel?
Would like first of all to underline the great significance of it. Bhojpuri on TV. Now this is where there is the only platform that may be shared by the middle class and the educated middle class and So you put your finger on something that I sort of omitted to mention. That, for example, the kind of music shows, the kind of serials, and the kind of language itself that is used on television is meant to be kind of neutral, meant to appeal to all kinds of people. But then it depends on how television watching is becoming more and more common in the countryside. And you know, Bihar still has a massive power problem. But even in my village, they managed to get these batteries and rig up all kinds of things. And they managed to watch TV. Because of which we now have 5 to 6 channels in Bhojpuri. So once the Bhojpuri serial takes off, it hasn't quite. Because it's mostly music, actually. Music videos. Once it does, yes, you have a very good platform. I wonder what the situation in the south again is. But this is a distinction for those who may be interested in matters of language. Even for Bhojpuri, not just for Hindi, I put Bhojpuri as drawing room or living room Bhojpuri. And the other type is crude version, which I use actually a Hindi word for it. I call it Khalihan Bhojpuri, meaning the barnyard Bhojpuri. So if I speak in Bhojpuri to you, you'll catch perhaps 50% because you know my delivery will be very, very akin to Hindi. But the same, I'm sure this happens in Telugu. It certainly happens in Marathi. People have told me, Marathi-speaking people from Pune, how difficult they find at times to understand a villager from Vidarbha, for example. It's all to do with the phonetic aspect and certain kind of vocabulary. So that is a fine distinction. Maybe in the case of Bhojpuri, it doesn't matter to you, you're too far off. But within your own context, perhaps, even for a dialect. Because my father used to speak a kind of Bhojpuri that may have sounded like Sanskrit. But then there is the real. We use the word khati in Hindi. So that would be a fabulous area to study actually. It's waiting for a couple of PhDs. And not just Bhojpuri, but there are other languages and dialects as well. Maithili included.
And one more thing I'm just interested to mention that these old languages like our
See, unlike Hindi cinema, Bhojpuri music and cinema are based differently. Bhojpuri cinema is based very much in Bombay. Yeah. And in fact, there are these researchers from the West who come to, I know a couple of them, someone who's now writing a doctorate. She was moving around in Andheri area, and there are these studios that specialize in Bhojpuri. So they are the lower rung professionals, as usual. Yeah? And they, sorry, can you just remind the first one? Music industry? Yeah. Okay, now music industry, unlike Hindi film, and I said, music and cinema are differently based. Music industry was traditionally based in Delhi. And that too again, this American scholar who worked on the cassette culture, and will actually went to the very hub, which is the Bhagirath Palace in Delhi, which was the hub. I visited the hub recently twice. Once, the last time was in 2012. It's no longer a great hub. Because, I've seen traces of the glory during a visit in 2009. What's happening here? We didn't realize that just above us, there's a music recording studio owned by a major singer who also decided to become a businessman. And he had invested something like 50 lakhs. Yeah. And he was, the only thing for which he had to go to Delhi was these copies. Like you need to make 40,000, 50,000 copies. But the core recording and everything he got done in his studio itself. So you have a string. Earlier, Delhi was absolutely the capital. But now it's like Delhi, Patna, then small town. And then I started coming across all kinds of names of this place is a major hub for recording and so on and so forth. I didn't get to visit all of them. I wonder if something like this is going on in the south as well. Is something like this happening in Kerala? A fragmentation of this whole. Try and look at it. All you need is wander around in the market and talk to the retailers and they tell you. But I found that the most reliable people are actually the shopkeepers. Even singers lie, producers lie. Everyone, in the entertainment industry, they all lie about figures. And when this Bombay producer gave me the figures, he didn't give me the name of the film. He said, I can't share that. You just take the numbers, not the name of the film. So which means, I didn't even know if the film was a hit. So that is the situation. Have I answered your question? No, please, if there's something remaining.
Part of it is, I think, I agree, there's a question. How much of this, you have this concentric circle, more important, less important in the overall picture. But music, the question obviously arises as to how much of that music is cinema music and how much of it is independent music. Outside of the.
In which case, I have only partly answered the question. Now, the thing is that, Bhojpuri cinema is based in Bombay. Bhojpuri music was traditionally based in Delhi. Now things are changing. But yes, major stars in Bhojpuri, they seem to come from music. Like, there are stars like Manoj Tiwari is there. Then there's a superstar almost, Nirahua. He's again a singer. And interestingly, they come from singing families. So they are rooted, we look at the family tree, they're rooted in folk, in the folk tradition. So somehow, you know, the latest one is there's a guy, again, a famous singer called Pawan Singh. He's turning into a film star. So it's like, you know, Kishore Kumar and Sonu Nigam or Nidhi Chauhan, they becoming the major film stars rather than someone like this lady who started singing all of a sudden. Priyanka Chopra.
I was also wondering something like, for instance, take a typical live concert, as you said. I mean, what kind of songs would be sung there? I mean, is it all film songs that they're singing, or is it that's what I
Oh, no, live? No. This is
Oh, yeah.
okay. I'll get a chance to clarify it further. No, content-wise, there is no coming and going between cinema music, Bhojpuri cinema music, and the rest. That's the difference between Hindi and Bhojpuri. That music industry is more or less independent, but there is some coming and going, which we must register, namely the stars. And this is happening also in other music industries. For example, in Haryanvi and various other. And it is also connected with what is going on in television. So a lot of activity there. I haven't mapped out these things. There is one thing I forgot to mention, that apart from all this, there is a regimen, work regimen. Namely, the shooting, the entire thing must get done within 6 months. So this is something they may have borrowed from South, actually from Tamil and Bengal. The efficiency, whatever, the budgeting, etc., certain kind of efficiency. But in the case of Bhojpuri cinema, it has also meant that, you know, camera angles don't change much. It's almost like, you know, the camera is there, everything else has to move. So you come and do your thing in front of the camera. This is what we've got today for half a day. Then later on, you put the camera over there under the tree, you do your song and dance over there. And this is now today's schedule. Otherwise, we can't complete the film in 6 months and we'll start down the process. So there's very tight calculation, which is very strange because, you know, that's not the part of the country you associate with efficiency. So a lot of interesting kind of elements are coming.
I have quite a number of questions, but one query is that I understand this live concert and music CD industry, they are not exactly coming from cinema. But are they, if we can make this distinction, are they a derivative industry or are they something that produced a lot of original? What I mean is original material, something that is like cinema, keeps on whatever it is from us. In the sense, live concert, for example, my understanding is that if you take certain kind of generic practices of singing music, performing, etc., or something from cinema, something else, everything mixes together. And so the attraction is that these things are being performed in front of you. So it refers back to something. Like there will be a song which is more like a filmy song, or there will be a song which will be like something baby shower, I don't know, some erotic song, some tradition, and it keeps on referring to something else. Or is it something that is
which part of the country are you from? Well, see, for a Hindi-speaking person, it is difficult to imagine a music industry that is independent of cinema. So let's get over this. Okay, what's happened is, and this is where the technology is for the country, that you had whether deteriorating or improving a folk tradition, okay, which was continuing right through the gramophone, the that that it's altogether different route. It just takes off. So much so that and no one really wants to sit and listen to Bhojpuri film songs. You watch a film, you hear the song, and that's the end of the story. They are not known for their great songs. They are numerous. For example, typically you have 8 to 10 songs. So the purpose is not to, it's not like Hindi movies. The songs are great hit, so the movie becomes a hit. No way. Songs just give the form its naughty kind of character. That's number one. Number two, there is something else you were thinking about. Yeah, so apart from the 2 different bases, even the trajectory is quite different. Like the earliest of Bhojpuri films, yes, were known for their hit songs. They still remember. Some of them rendered also into Hindi numbers. But otherwise, and why would you mention the performance? Because I was told that, are you familiar with something called Bhagwati Jagan? The night-long vigils, people who Kirtan. Okay. So the tempo varies when they get tired and sleepy, it becomes dull or whatever. So the performer's job is to keep them the juices flowing. Now I was told that, and this happens in Banaras, that in Bhagwati Jagan, a religious occasion, they have started calling these professional dancers women to come and dance. And this is, the unique Indian thing. Yeah. So that's even during Saraswati, there is this one special hour of piety, and suddenly, this mood of piety is lifted and something else takes over. In fact, I was talking to these people from a band in Banaras. They were saying that, these girls come to Bhagwati Jagan, they take all the money, we get nothing. It was a very petty trade.
About this that's what is.
So this is the thing about performance. You need improvising concept.
But what interests me most here is that how we are talking about Bhojpuri cinema, going through a shift from middle class struggling cinema into this sudden sort of outburst of crass, whatever, publicly devalorized pleasure, and there is quite a large crowd that watches this. And the way you were describing that audience, it seems to me that there is a prototyping there, but it's majorly what we call the lower middle class, right? The migrating, really lower middle class, however, who had liquidators, some amount of which keeps growing. Now, for me, the most interesting part of it is, my understanding is that in traditional sociology, bourgeois or lower middle class are often one of the most moralistic sort of classes. That is generally their trademark. So what is this interesting new sort of lower middle class whose cultural expression becomes a sudden outburst of what is socially has not been.
How is it? Somewhat the working class kind of migrant labor and other kind of.
Yeah, it is actually, which is why I said, I have to constantly make use of all these hierarchies together. And strangely enough, it sounds very complex, but it simplifies things. There's a moment of language hierarchy, there's a moment of money hierarchy, there's a moment of caste hierarchy, all these things somehow. Some strange kind of a mosaic-like thing, rather than some linear kind of causative.
Cutting across as a
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting problem.
For example, I'm a poor Brahmin. I'm an illiterate Brahmin. I work as maybe a khalasi, the attendant in a truck. So then, I go for those kind of songs. If you come and remind me that, listen, you're supposed to be a Brahmin, you're an upper caste, you're privileged, please do not watch someone, that's not how it works. So identities, go take very different options.
Actually, sir, like, even if not particularly, have this Jagrata, Jagrata. So, but in Jagrata, like, there is always a parody of Hindi filmy songs. Something that devotional manner, like Maa Murade Puri Karte Halwa Baatuni Ke. Mera Bhai Babu Chai Chalunga, like Imagine. So, like, in these live concerts, is there any such relation with the filmy songs?
Total. That's what I was talking about. Girls dancing and filmy songs being played, filmy tunes being turned into prayers and bhajans. And if, as an outsider, you look at it, it's an event, it happened overnight. But when you start talking to these people, you realize that, the fellow who was playing the tabla. Okay. For example, the top tablist in Patna makes around 1,50,000 rupees per month. I had no idea. I thought, someone catches hold of someone and, they rig up this thing and make a racket the whole night, not allow us to sleep, and then they vanish. Thankfully. So, which is a completely bogus, ephemeral vision, which I had. So all those kids, for example, Raju, who can sing in male and female voice, he sings duets with himself. It's a big tamasha. Okay, it's a big joke till you realize that no, Raju is running his family. Money makes, and he's been doing it for years.
And one more question, sir, you talked about the vulgar lyrics and how there is a lack of the good lyricists in the industry. I was just thinking that is it only about the lack of the lyricists, or maybe because we also have the market, those lyrics, those songs which have this vulgarity or whatever.
See, personally, I find that when there is an element of something innovation, I like body songs as well, but not just repeating foul words and mentioning body parts and so on and so forth. But certain kind of irony, humor, or whatever. We have such a tradition. I don't know in the north of that kind of humor, that kind of singing, and even women have their own parallel thing as well. So it's not necessarily confined to men. If you come down to popular things like in the north, you have this thing of Deva Kavi, kind of. I have actually seen books, suggestions to Bhabis on how to handle Deva after getting married and so on. These country village publications. There's the bookshop called Dehati. Dehati Bhandar means rustic bookshop. Okay. So you have some books on agriculture, fertilizers, farming, and then you have this manual. Okay. So thing is, to go behind this screen.
I actually not finished. I was trying to make a connection because on one hand, what a working class or middle class, someone who likes this new, very, if I am allowed to say, certain release of certain sort of desire, pleasure, etc. On the other hand, you have something that often gets called among the internet crowd the trashophilia. There is a large number of young crowd who completely, identify and actually what they call digging this sort of music, I mean, Bhojpuri music is often a major viral hit in YouTube. There is a guy called Wilbur Sarkar from I think he's Tamil, yeah, who sings songs like how to use an Indian culture. It's not a song, it's a video, but there are songs called Chicken 65, etc. And for example, there is this guy called Santosh Pandit in Malayalam who has made this film, which has been called as one of the worst films you can possibly make. And there are crowds of people who are going in to watch, they are dancing in front of the film theatre. But the moment they are coming out, there are cameras, they are hiding their faces. They know that this is trash, but they associate certain kind of desires with this. So what I am saying is that on one hand, so these are very different phenomena, but what might be connecting them is the fact that these are classes or these are audience groups that are all coming out of a certain new era. Like the migration-based class that you're talking about is something that's clearly coming out of post-liberalization that comes to. And all of these things, this desire for that sort of culture might be a key to understanding the kind of shift that happens across the country. In multiple levels, and not necessarily one thing, but different.
See, there are some looking at the base, the next level. There are times when we come very dangerously close to the borders of the word culture as a matter. Descriptively, of course, all this is culture, nothing else. But you are beginning to wonder, you should call something culture after all. And to just give you an example, for example, the migration, the labor, it's mostly men, boys. Okay, so you know boys hostel kind of culture, especially in school, by college locally, so the kind of jokes you make, and the kind of conversation, you give each other names. You have to, this is not very easy to make up one's mind when there is any kind of cultural production happening over there. What is going on? It's a very strange kind of limbo. Yeah.
You were talking about the Bhojpuri cinema, 60s, 70s, 80s, and then I understand the sudden rise in the revenue generation in 2000 with Sasura Bada Paisa Wala. And that also coincides with the increase in migration of workers. And I apologize for it beforehand, but I've always associated Bihar without knowing anybody from there with something which is vulgar, because I was handed down that kind of filing system. So I'm wondering whether this this creation of the vulgarism aesthetic was in response to how the migrants were accepted or treated. Was it a sedimentation of a certain existing thing? Is it something that I'm not sure if I can understand it? Is it something that carries over from the Nautanki tradition itself? Or is it something that was generated as part of their interaction with the rest of the country and culture? Is it something that is part of the tradition itself, or is it something that is created as another of the Bihar?
That again, see what it's a very complex kind of. I don't mean complicated. I mean, there are several factors, complex. In the sense, for example, we have Hindi. How mainstream Hindi has looked down on the language. Now, which is why I was talking about the various dialects. Now, it is likely that mainstream Hindi itself will change. Because you now have, Mamta speaking Hindi, full confidence, no problem. I'm sure you must have heard few South Indian Tamil Telugu speaking, breaking into Hindi quite freely and with the sense of right and claim. Okay, perhaps even condescension. The fact that I'm speaking, I'm willing to speak Hindi is good enough. So shut up about the quality of language. So there's this very subtle kind of sort of power games between languages which are being played. But yes, it has to do with the rustic appearance. Lalu very much, Lalu is a very, very complex. It has not been completely unraveled yet. There is more work to do over there. So it's not as if, Lalu's hairstyle, his language, the colorfulness of his language. And for example, Lalu, during his childhood, was a great entertainer within the family and in the village. Did you know that? Yeah, because he's a great performer. And he is, in fact, someone who veered away from what may have been a professional performance career and came to politics. So look at him and look at a film star in the South. And by the time they're in their late 20s, they're mature politicians. They know the whole game. On the other hand, you have Lalu, a very different entity, but certainly have similarities. And most of all, the complex relation between Uttar Pradesh and Bihar is very interesting. Okay. That really lies at the heart of the story. Because Uttar Pradesh is a refined gentleman, Allahabad, Amitabh Bachchan, and all the major literary figures, and Bihar is the rustic backing, with the poets like Nagarjuna and Hindi, which sounds so lilting, a bit like Bangla, a bit like nothing in particular. But Bihari Hindi is no certain accent. And Bihari middle class again always was a very complex middle class. Because of its Hindi, because of its English. So this is why Nitish consciously fought for dignity and self-respect. He was actually talking about it by going around the villages. And we shouldn't feel so bad about our culture, whatever culture we have. And look, the kind of neighbors we have, they're so culture heavy. Like Bangalore. That's the thing, you become culturally smart only when you're in a position to look down on someone, right? Otherwise, there's a little shaking and defensive. The moment you can say that, the neighbor is very vulgar people, you're fine.
Eventually, one point, in speaking bad Hindi for Bengalis, it was always celebrated in Bengali films. In several films, you can find several characters, they are speaking in Hindi as a very bad Hindi. That is Bangla Hindi. And it is actually celebrated. The spectators are celebrating, the actors are celebrating. So, and this Hindi is some way was a representation or a kind of, it was from Bihar. Most of the times they are talking with the rickshawalas or police in a very bad tone and in a very bad dialect. But it was celebrated because, it is some kind of dimming that language, that Hindi, Bihari Hindi.
Well, you remember that song from Tapan Singh's Sagina? Salara to Sahaba, that I think, and the relation between Biharis and Bengalis is also very interesting because it is a relation. I'm not saying, that just because they are neighbors, there is a certain kind of mutuality which has a depth. For example, Bihari would like to imagine that the Bangla culture is over-refined, too sophisticated. You get so there are layers and layers. It's a bit like that. On the other hand, a certain awe of Bangla culture. And it's something that, for that reason, the Bangla thing is very relevant because Assamese felt about it differently, Orias felt about it differently, and if you are from Purulia or other parts of Bengal, apart from Calcutta, you felt about it differently. So these are ongoing stories, which are also, these relations are changing. Because Biharis don't feel so strongly about Western India. Why? Because the marriage is only happening between Eastern and Indians.
In addition to this, the one thing to emphasize, which perhaps you didn't do enough, it's not just that there is this awe for the Bengali. Within Bihar, there has also been this 20 or 30 years of breaking the power that the Bihars, Rajputs, Brahmins had. Right, so it's also this assertion which has happened at the caste and the political level, the coming to power of the others, has led to this other kind of assertion. It's not just this awe felt in relation to Bengal, but even within Bihar, assertion, there is a new class which is saying, earlier in caste terms we will not submit to you. Now that has passed that has passed from politics even to language or culture. I think that is the other interest.